Hello fellow dragons, it's Shane from Astral Dragon Gaming, and today we're doing a review for My Memory of Us. It's a very simple click and point sort of adventure that is based around roughly the time period of the Second World War, but it's very much different. It's told from the perspective of the person that survived the Second World War and talking about the memory of the person that was effectively a Jew in it. This game is very fanciful, I think is the best way to describe it. It's done in an art style that's very... what's the best word to describe it? It's very much Merry Melody's original sort of Mickey Mouse design with a kind of 1940s kind of narrative design. It's a very interesting sort of animation and I do like it, and it's so enticing, I think is the best way about it. The people that have designed this have designed it for purely a really very specific reason. They wanted to talk about World War II, but at the same time not put World War II straight in people's faces. The idea in this game is, as you can see by the art style, is that you have normal people that are everyday, and then you have people that are red. They're coloured by the robots. Now the robots are supposed to represent the Nazis, basically, who were the invading force in Poland and other parts of Europe during that time period. And I have to give them credit for giving that menacing but comical look of Nazis at the same time. It's a really interesting design choice and it really works. It works for what it's supposed to be showing at that time. And I think the people that design this are clearly either Jewish by descent or have heard enough stories about World War II to really portray the story that is the people that were stuck in the ghettos, the people that were stuck outside the ghettos, the people that were stuck in between the Nazi war machine. That is this movie, this game, this story. And just the oppression that you feel. Like, you feel the lighthearted part in the first section of it, and it shows it in its visuals and everything, and then all of a sudden people start getting segregated and getting coloured red, because they are to be ostracized from others because they are different. And I think that's a really good sort of motif, because the entire game is black and white, except for that one red motif which really orchestrates the entire meaning of segregation, of isolation, of persecution is the best word to describe it. And it's really well designed in that whole overview of everything. The art style is very sort of bubbly, bouncy, and very 2D in its own right, but at the same time there is a definite level of 3D-ish sort of design that really comes forth and gives this entire world a real lived-in, orchestrated sort of idealism of what it's supposed to be. Now I'll stop shouting through the mic and we'll have a listen to the sound and music, and I'll get back to you.
She brought me a book she'd found hidden away deep inside my shop, and I opened it to find drawings tucked inside, and they were familiar. I felt memories begin to stir inside me when an old photograph fell out from between the pages. It had been torn in two, and it showed a young girl in ragged old-fashioned clothes. I knew her, didn't I? Was it my...
One of the interesting things I like about this is it's voiced by Patrick Stewart. Now, he's basically the narrative between chapters and the overall narrative of the actual story. But there is a voice quality about Patrick Stewart that really always resonates with me. And I'm not sure it's because I'm a Trekkie fan or because Patrick Stewart just has a great sort of timbre to his voice, a great baritone. It just resonates in my mind every time you hear it. And he's just done a fantastic voice job of giving forth the emotion that this kind of thing sort of evokes, and it should evoke, because it's a very isolating thing, this whole thing about segregation, about being isolated from your loved ones, about being cut off from normal people because apparently you're different, but you're not. And he does a really good job of talking about the whole thing. Music-wise, I love the music in this. Again, it brings me back to that 1940s, 1950s period of animation that really gives this sort of bouncy, poppy sort of thing that is really easy to just listen to and really easy to just be part of the entire thing. I love all of this game in its entirety because it's a package. It's not just individual things that you can slice up and analyze as things. It's an entire package that brings forth its whole idea, and the music illustrates this quite well. The sound is very much period designed, and it very much concentrates on that industrial war machine sort of sound vibe, that 1940s, 1930s sort of design that was common in that time period, where you would be in an industrialized world where everything was a grind, it was a constant sound of a motor, or you had the entire absence and you could actually hear the real world, which is something that I think we all miss in this day and age when you consider the amount of music and techno things that we hear every day, like hearing our own phones just bleep off at us. And yeah, it's an interesting thing to hear this kind of overall thing different from what it should be, but it's not different. So we'll get down to the basic story. The basic story is you play as a boy and a girl, and you are introduced to this story because you're a big bookseller that is retelling what happened at that time period in your life, and you're trying to portray to this girl about a memory of a girl that you once knew many, many years ago. And instead of scaring the girl and talking to her about the reality of the Nazis, about the reality of the Holocaust and the war camps and the segregation and just the outright discrimination of individuals for no other reason than the fact that they were not the Nazi Aryan race, but someone different. He replaces it all with a unfeeling machine, which is what the entire other side of this war is. These robots that control the entire world, and the people were having a war with these robots, and they lost in the war to the robots. And I think that is really the interesting part about this game. I cried at the end of this game because it was a touching story that really brings home that entire feeling of what the World War II kind of brings to me, because I am fascinated by the World War II, but at the same time, I am aghast at the idiocy that you have to associate with World War II. The fact that so many people were isolated, not only on the unallied side, the Nazi side, on the Japanese side, but also even on the allied side, where we would isolate people because of a nationality or a skin color or something stupid like that. I think it's probably what we should take home more from something like World War II, and this game illustrates so well that any isolation that we do, we isolate ourselves and we remove ourselves from people, which is where the stupidity of it all begins. And I love how this game has been designed around the idea of showing but not telling people how you should think. It's showing you what needs to be done, but at the same time not telling you what it is. There are many puzzles in this game, and they're all very simplistic. I think I looked up one because I was too stupid to look at the answer to the puzzle in front of me when it happened. And you'll go back and forth and you'll play this over and over again to try and get past puzzles, but it's not a very long game, but at the same time it's long enough to give you the understanding of what this game is trying to say. Like the isolation in bomb shelters, the sudden exclusion of other people through making one side red and other people just normal, through the feeling of what the ghetto was actually like, and then on top of that trying to fight the war machine itself when all you have is just paper and ink. You don't have guns, you don't have any way to fight these people, but you have your free will, you have your own choice to make. And I love how this game really orchestrates that, even in the stealth scenes where they get frustrating, but there is a purpose that's behind them and it makes sense. So anyway, that's been my review of My Memory of Us. It's a great game. I wish I'd played it sooner. I got it as a Humble Bundle, and I hadn't got around to playing it at any time soon, but I'm glad I played it. It's just a game that really hits home and makes you feel something. It really just gives you a sense of a different sort of thing about a different time period and a different sort of era of how people thought and how people reacted to things. And I think it's just something that we should never really forget. If we forget history, we forget what it is that we should remember for the future, and I think that's what this game is really more about. It's about remembering the important things in life, but also not forgetting the horrors that exist in life so that we don't see them repeat themselves. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the subscribe button if you did like it. If you didn't like it, you can always hit the down arrow on the likes or up arrow on like, depending on how you feel. And other than that, I hope you are having a fabulous new year, and I will see you in 2020. Bye for now.